Hello and welcome. My name is Grace Riley, and I'm reporting for the American Spectator. Today, I am joined by Tom Trento of the United West. Tom Trento was one of the leaders on the trip that I took to Israel this past May, and he is an academic authority on Islam, the Middle East, and travels across the United States and Europe speaking on the subject. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Great seeing you, Grace. Can you believe that when we were there this past summer, the world would be exploding right where we were standing? Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, even just thinking back, it's been so crazy to know that the places that we went and just the stuff that's going on. It's heartbreaking. And you've been to Israel many times before, so you're even more familiar. But I wanted to start by talking about one of the places that we went. So we went to the border of Lebanon where we were briefed on the situation with Hezbollah in the north. And obviously that comes into play with everything going on now. But it seems like the concept of civilians being used as human shields is one that Western reporters and those in the West don't quite understand. Can you just share a bit of your expertise from being on the ground there?
Yeah, if anyone's familiar with the geography, Israel sits on the Mediterranean Sea. It's sort of like a triangle, but in the top right corner, the northeast corner, there's a strip of land that continues north. And on the west side of that land is Lebanon, and on the east side is Syria. So you and I and our group were way on the top of that in a kibbutz. A kibbutz is a farming community. That one has 400 people. And when you're in Mizgavam, if you look over to the east, you see Syria. If you look over to the west, like about 100 yards, you see Lebanon, and you see these beautiful homes just dotted in the landscape. And we were briefed by the colonel who was there, Colonel Bodie, that those homes that are lovely, beautiful, are really a charade, a disguise. The top floor may have some people living in them, maybe not. The ground floor is sort of an entryway, but in the basement are all the munitions, all the rockets, all the ammunitions, all the gear for the Hezbollah warfighters when the war breaks out, which is inevitable and maybe even sooner than we imagine with Israel. So all of those homes there are military bases for Hezbollah to destroy the northern part of Israel.
And there's also the tunnels that bury underground. You saw the tunnels with your own eyes, correct?
Yeah, after we completed your trip, I had a second trip specifically to explore the borders of Israel. And so we were in Gaza. We were in the places where many people were killed, but up north where we were, and we drove right past an area of one of the so far located 9 Hezbollah tunnels. And when we say a tunnel, this thing is 250 feet down and a mile into Lebanon. And we went down about 150 feet. We had a group, and it was difficult walking down and wet and dark. And, they're blowing air in. And then when you had to go back up, difficult. But the tunnel's designed for the Hezbollah fighters to sneak out, go into Mizgavam or any of the other little communities, steal a bunch of people, and do exactly what the Hamas is doing now, trade those people for an untold, ungodly amount of convicted terrorists. So, yeah, it's a mess up north right now.
Yeah, it's a mess and very, very serious. So that's why I thought it was important to talk about that because this stuff's very real. There are those tunnels there. There are also the civilian homes, hospitals, whatever being used as hubs and places to store weapons. That's very real. And it's intentional to be hiding under civilians since Israel doesn't like to attack them. But moving on a little bit, there are Western reporters and people in the West who are saying that this is just a geographical conflict over land. Now, I would point out that that completely leaves out the religious aspect of this. But as someone who deeply studies Islam, what are your thoughts on that?
People that say that are idiots because um, educated barbarians basically. It takes 2 seconds to Google the fundamental doctrine of Islam as it relates to jihad, told from the lips of Muhammad through 1400 years of scholars and sages and imams to today, exactly what jihad means. And they have a theological mandate, Islam. And the reason is very simple for your viewers and listeners. God came to the Jews and said, "You're my people, go do a good job." They failed. So he then went to the Christians. "You're my people now, go do a good job." They failed. Aha. He now comes to the final prophet, Muhammad. Go do a good job. Muhammad got his sword out, made sure everybody believed, whether they wanted to or not. He did a good job according to Islam. Therefore, this is Islamic doctrine. People call us Islamophobes because we explain Islamic doctrine. Therefore, the theological mandate is to subdue the world. Islam doesn't mean peace, it means submission, to submit the world to Islam. And you're seeing in real time, in videos, graphically, by their own GoPros, what jihad in real time means from a totalitarian perspective. Kill, slaughter, maim, Allah will rule at the end.
Yeah, and I want to point out too, it doesn't take long in studying the Quran to find surahs that include that. It doesn't take long at all. It's not hard to find that in the doctrine. And that's a huge thing to be missing. I mean, this is very obviously and clearly about religion. That's the root of all of this, and that's what the jihad even means. So what are your thoughts on that in America? Because obviously there's been plenty of protests.
Yeah, Americans need to realize that we are at war and we need to establish a war footing. There's two elements to this war. There's the gun, boom, boom, bomb shooting, killing, all of that. The Israelis are taking care of that in a kinetic fashion because they were attacked. Maybe the more dangerous, maybe the more insidious element of this war is a cultural war where Muslims are told to leave their country in a particular way, go into other countries, not assimilate, but dominate. That's what you're seeing on the streets of New York and the streets of San Francisco and London and Brussels and Paris. The domination of the Islamic doctrine. And the war is very simple. It's between Islamic Jihad and the Judeo-Christian civilized West. Now, it's important for me to say that well, every Muslim is a jihadi. They're all crazy. No. Thank God most Muslims don't even believe their own doctrine. In fact, they're bad Muslims because they don't follow their doctrine. Conversely, the good Muslims are the one who are the Orthodox Muslims following their doctrine. Out of 1.3 or 4 billion, Grace, we only need a tiny percentage, 19, to change the world on September 11th, 2001, and a few thousand on October 7th, jihadis, to totally destabilize right now the Middle East.
Yeah, it is very serious, and especially with the state of the border. I mean, we reported on, and this is increasing now, the fact that there have been a big number of individuals on the terror watch list apprehended at the border, and that's just what they've caught. So the point being that for most likely for the past few years, there are plenty of people who have gotten through who don't have good intentions, coming from all over the world, and we don't know where. So that's a serious, I mean, risk here on the ground beyond what's going on in Israel.
Yeah, if you can see behind me, Swords of Iron. That's the name of the Israeli operation to destroy the Hamas's military and political capability, so they never can do this again. But absolutely, the ramifications of the jihad in America are we haven't even seen them yet, because most likely Israel's going to have to fight Hezbollah up north. And it's a whole different war. The Hamas, as difficult as it is, they are Boy Scouts. They're terrorist Boy Scouts compared to the armament, the firepower of Hezbollah. Both are proxies of Iran. And if Israel has to fight Hezbollah, where we were, right on that border, Misgav has been evacuated. That whole north, 250,000 people have left the north. They left their homes, their families, their schools. They've moved into the. You can't travel to Israel as a tourist now. There are no hotels, Grace. All of the hotels we were in are filled by Israelis that evacuated from the north, where we were, and from the south, where we were, down by the Dead Sea, all of that. They're living in the tourist hotels. If Israel has to fight Hezbollah, they're not going to fight, according to the United Nations, in a reciprocal or proportional manner. They're going to set southern Lebanon on fire. Otherwise, Israel loses their country. When that happens, the Arab street worldwide is going to erupt. They're going to go nuts, and then they're going to start going kinetic, shooting and hurting and killing people. This is inevitable. And why? Why in the United States? You don't have to be a genius to say, how do we get our terrorists into the United States right now to create mayhem and chaos? Oh, should we fly them in? Should we bring them by boat? Let's just go through the southern border and they'll be welcomed by the Biden administration. It's treasonous what this administration is doing on our southern border for national security issues.
Really serious and heartbreaking stuff. So just before we close, thank you for joining me. Can you tell everyone where they can find information about the United West and the work that you're doing?
United West, the name is who we are, uniting the West against Islamic Jihad and Marxists and all the crazies. The United West, the name, theunitedwest.org. Go there, sign up. We have 4 mission objectives: defend the Constitution, defend Israel, defeat Mohammed, defeat Marx. Not Groucho Marx. We like him. Karl Marx. Defeat him. And because of all our work all over the place and in Israel, we're in the center of this war, helping Israel on several levels, but also trying to secure the homeland. Because as you know, and as anybody with a half a brain knows, the battle is now in the homeland, particularly because of the border. So that's what we do. If you want to get involved, and we'll bring a little excitement to your life. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great to talk to you and hear about some of the stuff that you've been doing and your expertise on the issue.
You are doing the Lord's work. Keep it up. I'll see
Thank
you
you.
somewhere in the future.
Mm-hmm.